To truly understand what the night journey means, you have to understand the time it happened in. This was the 10th year of prophethood, a year so painful that Islamic history calls it Am al-Hazan, the year of grief. Within a single year, the Prophet had lost Khadija, his wife of 25 years, the woman who was the first to believe in him, the woman who held him when he came trembling from the first revelation and said, "You will never be disgraced." He lost her. And then, just weeks later, he lost Abu Talib, his uncle, the man who had protected him from the tribal politics of Mecca for decades.
Even Abu Talib's presence, even without him accepting Islam, had been a shield. That shield was gone. After Abu Talib's death, the persecution from the Quraysh intensified.
There was no protection. There was no safe space. Even walking through the streets of Mecca had become dangerous. This is who walked into Taif, hoping for shelter. And this is who walked back out, bleeding. So when we talk about the Isra and Miraj, we are not talking about a miracle that happened in good times. We are talking about a miracle that arrived in the middle of a man's darkest chapter. Because that is how the divine works. Not always in the moments of comfort, but in the moments of collapse. One night, and scholars differ on the exact date, but most place it during this same painful period. The Prophet was near the Kaaba. He was resting in the area of Hatim, a semicircular section near the Kaaba that holds deep significance. Jibreel alayhi salam appeared. He woke the Prophet and something remarkable happened. His chest was opened. His heart was taken out, washed with the blessed water of Zamzam, and then filled with faith, with light, with wisdom, before being placed back. Now, this had happened before, long before prophethood. As a young child being raised among the Banu Said tribe, something similar had occurred. As if God had been preparing this heart since childhood, cleansing it, strengthening it, making it ready for a weight no other heart could carry. Then came Buraq. Buraq was a creature, white, luminous, unlike anything from this world. And its stride. Each stride reached as far as the eye could see. The Prophet mounted Buraq and the journey began. Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. A journey that in those times would take over a month on foot, completed in a single moment. Not an hour, not a minute, a moment. When he arrived at Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, he was not alone. They were all there. Adam, the father of humanity, Noah, who built an ark when the whole world laughed at him. Abraham, the man thrown into fire who came out unburned. Moses, who parted seas. Jesus, who spoke as an infant. Every single prophet gathered in one sacred space. And Jibreel turned to the Prophet and said, "Lead them in prayer." He stepped forward, and every prophet, every messenger who had ever walked this earth, stood behind him in rows and prayed. Let that sink in. The man who had just been chased out of Taif with stones. The man whose city had turned against him. The man who had cried alone under a tree asking God for help. That same man now stood at the front as the Imam of every prophet in history. This was not just an honor. This was a divine announcement. The message to the universe was clear. The chain of prophethood, which began with Adam, ends here, with him. He is the last, he is the seal. After the prayer at Al-Aqsa, the ascent began. The Prophet and Jibreel rose together, through the layers of the heavens, one by one. The first heaven, Adam, the father of all humanity. He looked to his right and smiled, then looked to his left and his eyes filled with something heavy. On his right, the souls of the believers. On his left, the souls of those who had rejected faith. He welcomed the Prophet warmly. Welcome, righteous son, righteous Prophet. The second heaven, Yahya and Isa, two cousins. Two prophets who had both faced immense rejection. They too welcomed him with warmth and recognition. The third heaven, Yusuf, Joseph, the one described in the Quran as being given half of all beauty created. Even in the heavens, his light was extraordinary. The fourth heaven, Idris. The fifth heaven, Harun. Aaron, the brother of Moses, loved deeply by his people. His welcome was full of joy. The sixth heaven, Musa, Moses, the prophet who had spoken directly to God, who had led an entire nation through impossible circumstances. When the Prophet passed him, Moses wept. Someone asked him why. He said, "Because this young man who comes after me will have more of his followers enter paradise than mine." Even in the heavens, Moses carried love for people he would never meet in this life. The seventh heaven, Abraham, Al-Khalil, the intimate friend of God. He was leaning against Bayt al-Mamur, the heavenly house, the celestial equivalent of the Kaaba. Every single day, 70,000 angels enter it to worship, and those 70,000 never return.
Because there are always 70,000 more waiting. Ibrahim looked at his descendant, the Prophet ﷺ, and smiled. Welcome, righteous son, righteous prophet.
Beyond the seventh heaven, the landscape changed. He reached Sidrat al-Muntaha, the low tree at the farthest boundary, a tree so vast, so luminous, that its description goes beyond human language. This was the edge of creation, the point where the knowledge of every created being, including the angels, reaches its limit and goes no further. And here, Jibril stopped. The angel who had been the companion of every prophet, the angel who descended with revelation, the angel who had traveled across the entire universe by the command of God. He stopped and he said something extraordinary. "This is as far as I can go. If I take one step beyond this point, I will burn." Think about what that means. Jibril, one of the greatest of all creation, had a limit, a boundary he could not cross. But the Prophet, a human being, continued forward, alone, into a closeness with the divine that no created being has ever experienced before or after. The one rejected by people was now in a nearness to God that even the angels could not reach. In that divine presence, 50 daily prayers were made obligatory for the Muslim nation. On the way back, passing through the sixth heaven again, Moses stopped him. How many prayers were prescribed? 50. Moses grew quiet. Then he said something from deep experience, from having led a nation for decades. "Your people will not be able to manage 50 prayers a day. I know how people are. I dealt with the children of Israel for years. Go back to your Lord and ask for a reduction." The Prophet felt hesitant. How many times could he return? But Moses urged him, "Go." He went back. It became 40. Moses said, "Still too many? Go back. 30. Still go back. 20, 10, 5. Finally, 5 prayers remained. Moses still said, "Even 5 might be difficult. Go back once more." But this time, the Prophet, he said, "I am too shy to ask again." 5 it was. But in the record of God, they are counted as 50, 5 prayers, 50 rewards. That is what Miraj gave the Muslim nation. Not a relic, not a story. 5 daily conversations with the divine, every single day, worth 10 times their weight. When morning came, the Prophet shared what had happened. The reaction in Mecca was immediate. The disbelievers erupted in laughter. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for, something so extraordinary that even some of those who had been sympathetic might now walk away. Jerusalem and back. In one night, they ran to Abu Bakr. They expected him to be shocked. They expected him to express doubt. They were almost smiling as they told him. Abu Bakr listened. Then he said 4 words that changed his legacy forever. If he said it, it's true. No pause. No. Let me think. And from that day he was called as Siddiq, the one who verifies truth. Meanwhile, the Quraysh had one more test. They asked the Prophet to describe Masjid Al-Aqsa, a place most of them had visited, but he, at that point, had not traveled to before. God placed Al-Aqsa before his eyes like a vision, and he described it, pillar by pillar, gate by gate, courtyard by courtyard, every description correct. They asked about caravans he had seen on the road during the journey. He told them, the caravans, their animals, what they were carrying, when they would arrive. The caravans arrived. Every single detail confirmed. And still, the leaders of Mecca refused to believe. The lesson is not complicated. It does not require a theology degree or years of study. It is simply this: when the world closes its doors, look up, because the one who created the doors is still listening.